You paid somewhere around $2,000 for the power station sitting in your garage right now. Go check eBay tonight. It is probably worth $600 or $700, maybe less. That is not because you bought the wrong one. So how does a piece of gear built to survive a hurricane end up worth a third of what you paid inside 2 years? I have spent 35 years installing backup power across this country, and I have watched people abandon good units because they assumed value retention worked here the way it works with a generator or a truck. It does not. But some units genuinely protect your money better than others, and today I am walking through the ones worth buying with resale in mind. The 2 brand names I would never trust with a dollar of my own, and the tariff shift changing the math on every unit sitting in American garages. Nobody was paying attention to how this market actually worked back when these brands first blew up during the pandemic outage boom. People bought whatever had the best reviews and the flashiest app, assumed a $2,000 purchase held its value the way most big purchases do, and never once asked what happens when the same company drops the new price by half a year later. That was about to become the single most important question in this whole category. Here is the part almost nobody explains up front. These companies do not slow down manufacturing once a model ages out. They cut the new price, sometimes by 40 or 50%, and then they turn around and sell their own trade-ins and returns as certified refurbished units with a fresh 1 or 2 year warranty backed by an insurer like Allstate. So now a private seller with no transferable warranty is competing against the manufacturer itself, selling a nearly identical unit backed by real coverage, often for close to the same money. That is the ceiling. A private used unit can never really beat that. If you are wondering how that is even legal, so is everyone else. And the answer is it is just how the industry decided to run the secondary market. The battery chemistry barely factors into the price crash. It is the pricing and the warranty doing almost all of the damage. So this is not a strict best to worst ranking. I am counting down 10 units worth owning if resale ever crosses your mind. And I am saving the single strongest verdict for right in the middle, because that is the pick I actually stand behind the most. Number 10. The EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. 2,048 watt-hours, lithium iron phosphate chemistry, rated past 3,000 cycles to 80% capacity. This is the most liquid unit on this entire list. It sells fast on the used market because EcoFlow has built such wide brand recognition that buyers trust it without much convincing. That's not a typo, by the way. It genuinely moves faster than units with better specs simply because people recognize the name. The problem is the ceiling. Manufacturer refurbished Delta 2 Max units routinely sell around $699 against an original $1,600 price tag. So even a mint private unit is fighting a losing battle against EcoFlow's own outlet store. Number 9. The Jackery Explorer 2000 Plus. 3,000 watts continuous, 6,000 watt surge, lithium iron phosphate, rated past 4,000 cycles. What separates this from a basic unit is the expansion ecosystem. It scales up to 12 kilowatt hours with 5 add-on battery packs, and you can run 2 units in parallel for 24 kilowatt hours with full 120 and 240 volt output. That ecosystem is exactly why it holds value better than Jackery's non-expandable models. A buyer shopping used isn't just buying a battery, they're buying entry into a platform they can keep adding to. The catch, and I want to be blunt about this because it matters, Jackery's warranty is explicitly tied to the original purchaser. Buy it used from an auction site, and you likely have 0 coverage left. Keep that in mind before you pay a premium for a private listing. Number 8. The Bluetti Elite. 200 Vi 2, 2,073.6 watt-hours, And this is the cycle life leader in this whole lineup, rated at 6,000 plus cycles to 80%, which Bluetti markets as roughly 17 years of daily use. 2,600 watts continuous, with surge figures listed inconsistently across retailers. Some say 3,900 watts, some list 5,200. So check the current manufacturer page before you buy, rather than trusting a random listing. Solar input up to 1,000 watts, charges 0 to 80% in around 50 minutes. Here's the uncomfortable part. Bluetti has already dropped the new price from an $1,100 introductory price down toward $800, and refurbished units are selling for around $680 with a 2-year insurance-backed warranty. Deal News actually flagged that a brand new unit costs only about $120 more than the refurb. When the gap between new and used shrinks to that little private resale value, collapses almost completely. Number 7. The Jackery Explorer 5000 Plus. I want to be straight with you on this one. It sits in the same expandable platform as the Explorer 2000 Plus. Same lithium iron phosphate chemistry, same active firmware support, and it is still in production right now. But the actual used market data on this specific model is thin. I don't have a confirmed resale figure I trust enough to put a number on, and I'd rather tell you that honestly than make one up to sound authoritative. What I can tell you is the same logic that protects the smaller Plus model applies here. Still selling new expandable ecosystem lithium iron phosphate cells that don't degrade the way older lithium chemistries do. If you already own one, that logic is your best evidence that it isn't quietly cratering in value. Number 6. The Bluetti Elite 300, roughly 3,014 watt-hours, built on the same generation of cells as the Elite 200 FUF 2 below it, which means it inherits that same strong cycle life reputation. This is Bluetti's mid-platform step-up, the unit for someone who wants meaningfully more capacity without jumping to the flagship. It's still in active production and still getting firmware updates, both of which are the real predictors of resale strength in this category, more than any single spec on a box. That's the mid-pack. But the next unit is the one I'd actually tell you to remember if you forget everything else in this video. Number 5. The EcoFlow Delta Pro 3, 4,096 watt-hours, 4,000 watts continuous output, 8,000 watt surge, and it does 120 and 240 volt split-phase power out of a single chassis, which almost nothing else at this price point can do. Rated to 4,000 cycles to 80%, which EcoFlow markets as roughly 11 years of daily power. It expands to 12 kilowatt-hours with 2 extra battery packs and up to 48 kilowatt-hours if you're building a serious multi-unit system. 5-year warranty, extendable to 7. Here's why this is the strongest verdict on the entire list. The original price was $3,700. EcoFlow has since dropped the new price to around $2,000, roughly $2,100 with the full 5-year warranty attached, and a genuine private resale, an actual used unit, not a manufacturer refurb, sold on eBay this past August for $1,551. Run the math on that. Against the original $3,700 price, that's only about 42% retained, which sounds rough until you compare it to the current new price. Against today's roughly $2,000 street price, that used unit held 74 to 78% of its value. That's not a typo. This unit is still the category flagship, still in production, still getting firmware support, with the widest expansion ecosystem in the business. And it's the one unit on this list where the resale math actually works in the buyer's favor once you compare it to today's price instead of the old MSRP. If you buy exactly one unit off this entire list with resale protection in mind, this is it. Number 4. The Bluetti Apex 300. This is Bluetti's current flagship, and I'll be honest with you, the way I was with the Jackery 5000 Plus, the resale data here is still thin because it's newer to the market. What I can tell you with confidence is it sits in the same platform generation as the Elite 200 Vi2 and Elite 300, meaning the same cell technology and the same active firmware support that's been protecting resale value for the rest of Bluetti's current lineup. Flagships in this category tend to hold their position longest simply because they're the last thing a brand discontinues. Number 3. The Anker Solix F 3800 Plus. This one tells the Tariff story better than almost anything else on this list. Original price was $4,799. Today it's selling somewhere between $2,300 and $2,500, with occasional flash pricing dipping even lower. That's roughly half off inside a couple years, and it happened before the industry even absorbed the 2026 tariff increase we're about to get into, and somehow it gets worse for anyone who bought at launch. A private seller on Craigslist recently listed 2 of these, writing plainly that he paid over $3,000 apiece and was taking the loss so the buyer could gain. That's not marketing copy. That's a real homeowner eating a $1,500 hit on a single unit. Number 2. The Jackery Explorer 2000 version 2, the base, non-expandable model. 2,200 watts continuous, 4,000 watt surge, lithium iron phosphate. Amazon dropped this to $749 in December. I'm including it here specifically as a contrast to the Plus model at number 9. Because it can't expand into a bigger ecosystem, it depreciates on its own specs alone rather than riding a platform's momentum. It's a fine unit for a straightforward outage. Just don't expect the same resale cushion the expandable version gets from buyers who want to grow into a bigger system later. Number 1. The Anker Solix F 3800, 3,840 watt-hours, EV-grade lithium iron phosphate cells, 6,000 watts continuous, 9,000 watt surge, and just like the Delta Pro 3, it delivers 120 and 240 volt split-phase power from a single unit, which is the feature electricians actually care about when a homeowner asks about whole home backup without a full panel rewire. It expands to nearly 27 kilowatt hours with up to 6 add-on batteries, and you can pair 2 units together for 12 kilowatts of output. I'll flag one thing for the spec checkers in the comments because I know you're here. Anker's own marketing lists the cycle rating inconsistently. Some pages cite 3,000 cycles to 80%, while other listings cite 6,000. Check Anker's current page before you quote a number on this one, and I'm not going to pretend that inconsistency doesn't exist just to make the pitch cleaner. Original price was $39.99. Anker made a permanent price cut earlier this year, and it now sells around $1,800 new, occasionally lower during flash sales, with manufacturer refurbished units running $1,400 to $1,800. This is the unit I'd actually put in my own garage if I only wanted one, because 6,000 watts of true split-phase output covers more of a real house than almost anything else at this price. That's the 10. If you're finding this helpful, go ahead and hit subscribe now. I cover backup power buyer protection here every week. No affiliate hype, just the straight numbers. So that's the 10 units worth owning with resale in mind. But what happens to the ones that never make a list like this is where the real money gets lost. Starting with a paperwork trap almost nobody reads until it's too late. Read the warranty paperwork on your unit right now. I'll wait. Jackery's service policy states the warranty is limited to the original purchaser, and specifically excludes anything bought through an online auction house. EcoFlow's policy is even more direct in its language. The warranty is not transferable if the product is sold on by the original purchaser, and reselling through an online auction or store will render the warranty void entirely. So the second you list your unit on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, you are selling a piece of gear with no coverage left, competing directly against the manufacturer's own refurbished stock that does carry coverage. That's the whole reason certified refurbished units keep undercutting private sellers. It's not that the battery inside a private used unit is worse. It's that the paperwork behind it is worthless. If you're planning to sell someday, keep your original dated proof of purchase, because a small number of brands will honor a transfer if you can prove the purchase date. And always price a private used unit against the manufacturer's own refurbished price, not the old MSRP, or you'll sit on that listing for months. If that warranty trap sounds bad, keep watching, because it's not the worst thing that can happen to your resale value. Losing the brand entirely is. Mango Power's Union unit looked genuinely competitive on paper. 3,500 watt-hours of CATL, manufactured lithium iron phosphate cells, expandable with an add-on battery, a marketed 10-year warranty. The cells are solid. The company standing behind them is the real risk. A forum thread from owners this past summer stated plainly that Mango Power couldn't pay rent on their own warehouse and appeared to be heading toward going out of business. One owner in that same thread said they'd gone through 4 separate units, with 2 still working, but with ongoing problems. Trustpilot reviews echo the same pattern, warranty claims sitting unanswered for over 6 months. The new price has already collapsed from an original $3,800 down to closeout pricing under $900. When the manufacturer itself is in financial trouble, your warranty becomes worthless paper the moment they close their doors, and resale value follows the company straight down. Then there's Goal Zero, a genuinely well-known name that still carries real reliability question marks. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has 2 documented recalls on record. In June of 2024, roughly 34,460 Yeti Link expansion modules and charging cables were recalled in the United States after reports of the cables melting inside a vehicle. Back in December of 2020, about 4,500 Yeti fast charge power supplies were recalled after reports of overheating. On top of that, owner forums document firmware update failures that bricked units mid-update and battery packs that dropped voltage far below safe levels. A premium brand name doesn't protect resale value if the safety track record doesn't hold up. And this audience remembers recalls a lot longer than most companies would like. And then there's the bottom of the market entirely, the off-brand names flooding Amazon that most of you have never heard of and never will again. Forum threads describe units dying within months with, in one owner's words, no customer service whatsoever once the listing disappears. Another commenter put it bluntly, you need to run a special kind of bad business to actually get delisted by Amazon. These units have no firmware support, no expansion ecosystem, and effectively no resale market at all. If a unit doesn't have a real company standing behind it in 5 years, treat it as a depreciating liability sitting in your garage, not an asset. Now here's the part that changes the math on everything you just heard, and it's happening right now, not in some hypothetical future. On January 1st of this year, the Section 301 tariff on Chinese-made lithium-ion batteries jumped from 7.5% up to 25%. That's the same tariff track that already pushed electric vehicle batteries to 25% back in 2024, now extended to the non-EV batteries that power almost every unit on this list. MIT Technology Review projected that once you stack the base duty, this Section 301 increase, and other reciprocal tariff measures together, Chinese-made lithium-ion batteries could face a combined tariff as high as 82% this year. I want to say clearly, that's a projection, not a locked-in number, so treat it as the ceiling of what's possible rather than a done deal. And there's real volatility behind that number. A Supreme Court ruling in February struck down a separate tariff track while leaving the Section 301 tariffs fully in place. So the exact final rate is still moving as courts and trade policy work through it. Here's why this matters for your garage specifically. China still manufactures more than 75% of the world's lithium-ion battery cells, and the U.S. imports the overwhelming majority of its lithium-ion batteries from China. That means tariff-inclusive Chinese costs are setting the marginal new price for almost every unit on this list, no matter which brand's logo is on the outside. Some manufacturers are shifting final assembly to places like Vietnam to reduce their exposure, but moving where a unit gets bolted together doesn't automatically change where the battery cells inside it originated for tariff purposes. So new prices across this entire category are under real upward pressure heading into next year. And that's the twist nobody expected 6 months ago. If you bought your unit before these increases hit, and the replacement cost for that same unit is about to climb because of tariffs rather than fall the way it has every other year, your used unit's resale value gets genuine support from the market instead of getting crushed by it. It doesn't reverse everything you've heard about MSRP crashes and warranty traps. But it's the one legitimate reason a unit bought last year might actually be worth more relative to a new replacement 12 months from now than it would have been under the old pricing pattern. Before you go buy any of this, one thing I need to say. Plainly, because I got the 2 a.m. calls for 35 years when people skipped this part. If you're buying a used power station, check the battery for any swelling, cracking, or damage before you hand over $1, and never trust a seller who won't power it on and show you the actual output. If you're wiring any of these into your home's electrical panel for whole home backup, that work requires a proper transfer switch or interlock kit installed by a licensed electrician. Backfeeding a panel without one can kill a lineman working on what they think is a deadline, and it can kill you too. That's not a scare tactic. That's just how electricity works, and it's the one step that protects both your family and your warranty. Follow your local code, and if you're doing anything beyond plugging a cord into a wall outlet, call a licensed pro. So, where does that leave you? If you want the single strongest resale protection in this whole category, it's the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3, still the flagship, still supported, and the one unit where a real used sale actually held on to most of its current value. If you want the most whole home capability for the resale dollar, the Anker Solix F3800 earns that spot. And if you already own a Mango power unit or an off-brand special from Amazon, I won't sugarcoat it. Sell it now while it's still working, rather than waiting for the resale market to catch up to what's already happened to that company. As of right now, the tariff numbers are still being finalized in court. The manufacturers are still cutting new prices to compete, and this entire secondary market is still shifting under everyone's feet. This story isn't finished, not even close.